My name is Robert Paquin, and I'm the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Republican Party. For 75 years, Democrats have controlled this state, and we are nearly last in every measurable category, from unemployment numbers to business friendliness. Join me in bringing balance back to the General Assembly on November 4th by voting for a Republican. As I've said many times, give us a shot. We couldn't possibly do any worse than the Democrats already have. This message paid for and authorized by the Rhode Island Republican Party. Mark Smiley, Chairman.
AM 790 Talk and Business presents The Coalition, a weekly one-hour show that looks at all sides of local, regional, and national news, as well as current events. Join us now for The Coalition.
And we are The Coalition, and I am the PO taxpayer. We are Coalition Radio. The ground rules. We are issues-driven, outrage porn-free. You'll hear no discussion of Christmas trees, no gun raffles, nothing in the silly season. A special show today, rejoining the Coalition after a brief exodus, was our friend Dave Fisher. Dave, welcome back to the Coalition.
Thank you very much, Pat, and thank you for having me.
Great. It's great to see you again, Dave. Dave, you can be seen in a number of sites. You write for some progressive blog occasionally. I'm not
occasionally,
sure what,
yes.
I'm not sure what that's called. Where else can we find you, Dave?
You can find me kind of all over the place. It's like you call it here, and we call it in Rhode Island the silly season in Rhode Island. So my talents are needed on multiple fronts. I'm currently working on the Margot Morisseau for Rhode Island Senate campaign down in District 21, so that's my full disclosure for today's show. And that's taken up a lot of my time, and recently started working in a temporary basis for a really touchy-feely, feel-good co-op up in East Bridgewater, Massachusetts, so that takes up a little bit of my time as well. But I'm glad to be back here on the show and back in the mix.
Where can we find you online, Dave?
Online, my presence has been mostly on Facebook and Twitter. A lot of Twitter recently. I haven't been doing much blogging, but we're looking to get back into the swing of that, working on a piece for that progressive blog right now. And we'll talk more about my blog after the show.
All right, great. And you are Facebook.com?
Dave Fisher. Just look me up. You can look me up at Writer RI on Facebook and DA Fisher RI on Twitter.
And, of course, you can find the Coalition on coalitionradio.us, where last week's show, our interview with Bob Healy, is still online. We podcast routinely, so you should see today's show podcast hopefully by tomorrow morning. Also on Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, and as our friend Tony likes to say, the mighty, mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio. Joining us in our next segment, we are pleased to have Ethan Giles here. Ethan is running as an independent. In fact, Dave, you could almost say this year is the year of the independent.
Yeah, so the reason I gave Pat a call and wanted to be on the show this morning is very shortly to their, some would say, untimely demise at the Providence Phoenix, rest in peace. I had pitched a story to the news editor over there about this kind of insurgence of independent candidates happening in Rhode Island. There are currently 13 independent candidates, including Mr. Giles, running for the House of Representatives, all of whom running against incumbent Democrats and I think one incumbent Republican. So I looked at this and I saw, maybe that there's some type of backlash against the party lines that's going on here in the state, and I see it as a good thing. I think we need more independent voices in the General Assembly for sure.
Now, we don't like to handicap electoral politics here per se in terms of the individual race, but clearly this is a function of electoral politics, isn't it? I mean, you've got the specter of the newest version of the Dark Lord, Emperor Palpatine, joining us in the case of Paulie Walnuts, our new esteemed General Assembly Speaker Mattiello, who has felt it even within his first few years in the legislature to deign himself the lord of all he surveys, and is actually screwing around in its own primary candidates elections, isn't he?
There have been rumors, sure. There have been rumors of
rumors,
people being allegations of people being recruited from outside the party to run against incumbents in a few key races.
And would any of those districts happen to be districts that might have opposed his ascension, his coronation, his beatification?
If you believe the rumors, that seems to be the case.
And the name, I hear a whisper in the background, the name Samini, does that mean anything to anybody?
Well, if one wants to put two and two together, you could probably make that assumption.
So, what saith to the candidate or the legislator that if he wants to actually advance any of the causes that he ostensibly was elected for, what saith then if you're going to then have to submit to the Lord Emperor Mattiello?
Well, I think that's what you're seeing with this kind of this independent candidate surge for the House of Representatives. People are starting to understand more how the back of the house works at the House of Representatives.
Which is to say it really doesn't work.
Well, it's to say that it's largely old boy politics and pay to play politics.
Now, but didn't he?
I won't say pay to play. Let's say quid pro quo. Hey, help me out on this, and I'll help you out on that. Instead of, hey, you know what? This is a good legislation. It's the right thing to do. Let's get it done.
Yeah, but didn't Speaker Mattiello go on the loving kindness tour when he was elected and say that way of business no longer existed?
Oh, yeah, of course he said that.
And didn't he?
But so did Speaker Murphy and Speaker Fox and Speaker Harwood and so
Speaker DeAngelis.
This is there we go.
Speaker DeAngelis.
Frightening.
It is frightening. Electoral politics in this state is absolutely. Some would even say devastating. So you've got this new speaker, and to quote the immortal Who, meet the new boss, same, or in this case, worse than the old boss, because at least allegedly Speaker Fox, while clearly being motivated by self-interest, would actually give some rein to progressive issues, libertarian-style issues. People had an opportunity to at least craft legislation. Here it seems that this is our own little, post-Soviet breakup Putin here.
Yeah, there seems to be a little bit of retribution happening for the speaker's race at this point.
Okay, well, so in my mind, then what you've got is you've got a new generation of candidates who, in my mind, are looking to that and saying, "Never mind, I don't want to play part of that game."
Or on the other hand, you have gentlemen like Mr. Giles here who say, "No, this needs to change, and I can be part of it."
Okay.
I don't want to hazard a guess as to what the percentage is to the people that are tuning in and or dropping out. But I think that those are both kind of the reactions to seeing that go through the news. And
right. What's fascinating to me is that in this year of the Independent, with the exception of yourself and most notably Ian Donis, who's written a couple of pieces about Ethan's campaign in on his NPR blog, and actually brought to light in this past week's issue about the 13 independent candidates, the obsession, the personality-driven obsession, the cult of personality that is the governor's race and is the mayor's race seems to trump all. There's a shallowness out there in the media that's disturbing, given the severity of the problems facing both the state of Rhode Island, Providence Plantations, and most notably the city of Providence. The recurring conversation in the 3 years in the run-up to the governor's election is that we have the constitutionally weakest governor in the nation. The governor has no play. The General Assembly is where everything happens. That is the continual rant of conservatives, disenfranchised progressives, et cetera, et cetera. And yet here we are now finally in an era when we can change that and make effective wholesale change. And we're worried about, and I play part of this role as well, we're worried about, Gina Raimondo's meatloaf supper days, and we're worried about, Buddy versus Alorza versus, it's astonishing to see this wholesale exodus away from the races that really matter.
Well, this was pointed out to me recently. This is a question I posed. Given that these state legislature races, arguably, and I would say arguably rightfully so, choose the direction our state is moving in more than these statewide races, especially when you think about Secretary of State, Attorney General, things like that. They don't really have much to do with crafting the way of the law of the land moves. But from the media perspective, you're going with the stories that are going to get the most eyes on them, and those statewide races immediately have a statewide appeal. So, a little bit of a short shrift is given to the local races because it's revenue driven. It's consumer and eyeballs and earlobe driven.
I think people are just lazy, actually.
I think that's part of it, but I don't want to hazard a guess as to what the percentage is.
I will. I'm not an expert. I just play one on the radio. I looked at the demise of the Providence Journal, and by the way, their endorsement this week of Attorney General Kilmartin to me signaled the end of really any sense of relativity that the Providence Journal has to the real world. It's astonishing. I think progressives, hardcore Democrats in the quiet of their own homes, in the back of their own bedrooms, Republicans, everyone can agree that Attorney General Kilmartin has last been seen on a milk carton is a complete zero as an Attorney General, and so here you have this candidate who embraces. You talk about the Big Tent. As a senator. Fought against certain judicial nominations like Judge Leach. As a senator, even as a Republican, embraced marriage equality. As a senator, was really the only one discussing 38 studios and bringing it to the fore. So if you have this psychotic embrace of good government as the journal, or the urinal, as I will now call it on the air forever, in honor of two of my heroes, Felipe and Jorge, all right? The urinal, all right, who has this psychotic embrace of government whenever they mention, Vincent A. Buddy Cianci, twice indicted. By the way, do you think they have like a keyboard macro that automatically inserts into every article the mention with if the
little control shift?
Yeah, if the CIA letter come together, are they going to accidentally say the twice convicted Central Intelligence Agency? So you've got this psychotic obsession with good government, and yet at the same time they endorse Kilmartin, which, by the way, is the same way that they endorse Cicilline, despite the financial freefall of Providence, which is the same way that they seem to do everything, with the exception of this myopic, near fatal attraction to Buddy Cianci. Do you think it's sort of a love thing?
No, I think it's because Kilmartin, as Attorney General, has brought a lot of money into the state. He's won a lot of civil cases on the state's behalf and brought a lot of money into the state.
So that's how we elect an Attorney General.
Well, I think anybody up on Smith Hill that looks at somebody that's bringing money into the state just starts salivating and says, yeah, we need more of that.
Okay. Well, so the Journal demise is largely traced to their abandonment of the local bureaus. All right, that for many people that was the beginning of the end.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Again, that same laziness when it comes to covering local news, which clearly, by the way, has impacted their coverage of the General Assembly races. Because a number of the independent candidates, when you look at their lists or their analysis, aren't even present. I'm not even sure if they're aware that they're running, despite the fact that these people are making yeoman's efforts, despite the fact that these people really represent, I think, the very best of democracy.
Yeah, but they don't. Again, it's revenue driven. It's consumer driven. So
yeah, but they're broke. I mean,
so why not throw anything against the wall? It's like throw out the old model and try something a little bit new.
Right.
I don't see the Providence Journal moving into the Providence Phoenix territory anytime soon.
Although Ed Acorn might enjoy that, some of the advertising. But they should. Somebody needs to.
Yeah, they absolutely should. I was really surprised that the Projo has had this really ongoing thing, the middle class squeeze, and I think that's people talk about that problem in this country, the shrinking of the middle class, but I think that from even a strict, Keynesian economic point of view, the middle class is the engine. Those are the people that are buying shoes and clothes for their kids and toilet paper and food on a daily basis. These are the things that drive our economy. And seeing that sector of our population shrink, I think was something that needed to be expanded upon rather than have it be this kind of, oh yeah, well we know that's happening, and really putting a human face on it and digging into the numbers behind it, I think is an important thing.